Hi guys, I'm so excited for today's video because we are going to be doing some more looks with the Alva II eyeshadow palette from Odens Cosmetics. If you missed my first impression video with this, I will have that linked up in the corner where I also did swatches with the rest of the collection. For this video, I'm only going to be focusing on this palette because I do have another video coming where I'm going to be doing looks with the mini palettes. And the review is also only going to be on this palette in this video because I simply haven't made up my mind yet about the highlighting palette because I haven't used all of the shades on my face yet. But before we get into the looks in this video is sponsored by Odens, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you so much, you guys, for sponsoring this video. It just feels nice to be working with a brand that I absolutely love, and it also just feels good as a creator to just feel like our time is valuable because we spend a lot of time on these videos, and it's just nice when brands kind of recognizes that and wants to pay us for our time. So this is of course not going to sway my opinions about any of these products, and they were very clear in the contract that they wanted me to be, you know, as honest as possible because they want the feedback, which I think is amazing. So I think we should just go ahead and jump into the looks, and then I will tell you the thoughts about this palette after you have seen them all. Also, just before we get into the looks, I do have a code with Odens which will save you 10% off your order if you are interested in picking any of these things up. It is an affiliate code, meaning that I do make a small commission if you do use my code, so thank you very much. Now let's get into the looks. So first off, we're going to start off by priming because priming is important, and I'm pretty sure I use different primers in most of these looks. If I don't mention something, it will probably be listed down in my description box if you are curious, so just go check there. Now let's go ahead and play with some eyeshadows. So for this first look, I'm going to start off by taking the shade called Green Tea, and this is going to go in the first third of my crease as well as my lid. This is going to be an all matte look, so I'm basically just packing on the color exactly where it is that I want it to be, and then I'm gently going to blend the edges afterwards. I'm also taking it under the eye, as you can see, and on the other eye because we need our eyes to match. Next up, I'm switching to a flat brush, and I'm going to pick up the blue shade here called Blue Peafowl, and that's going to go in the middle of my lid. And apparently it was very pigmented when I first put it on, as you can see, and that was the case with all of these shadows. They all performed really well, and you will see that in my video. So I'm just going to put this next to where I put down the green, both on my top lid as well as underneath my eye. And then for the outer portion of my lid, I decided to go with the shade Peach Juice, which I'm not sure looking back was the best decision because it is a little bit hard to blend these two colors in together without them getting a little bit muddy. I probably should have gone with the yellow shade instead, like the mustard, but I think I was able to be careful enough to not blend these colors in together too much so that it still looks pretty good. I'm also winging it out a little bit here and just making sure that everything is blended and connected all the way around my eye. I'm then just going to go back in with both the blue shade as well as the green shade in the inner corner just to make sure that the blends are looking okay and that is nice and intense. I'm then going to go in for an inner corner highlight, and I wanted to use the green shimmer, which is called Green Elves. This color is so beautiful. I love this as an inner corner highlight. It almost looks kind of neon when you put it over the top of that other green. It looked so pretty. And then just to brighten up my eyes a little bit, I went in with some white in my waterline. Again, it will be linked down below in my description box if you want to know what I used. And for my highlighter, I wanted to use my Alva II highlighting palette, and I'm grabbing the sort of champagne-y shade in the bottom left, and I'm trying this thing where I'm dimming the lighting while I'm editing when I'm putting on highlighter so you can kind of see the color a little bit better. And I'm using a very fluffy brush here because I found that this formula just looks a little bit better on my skin when I go in with a bit of a lighter hand and build it up slowly rather than just going in very heavily. And to finish off the look, I'm taking the matte cream lip stain from Odens in the shade Apricot Girl. I felt like this would just match the outer part of my eye perfectly, and I really like how this look turned out. Like I said before, I'm not sure exactly about the blend on the outer corner between the blue and the kind of red shade, but I think it looks okay despite the mascara smudges on my eyelid. Let's move into look number 2. So we are of course going to be using the same palette again because that is what this video is about, am I right? So I'm going to start by taking the shade Green Tea, and I'm going to put that in my crease as my transition shade as well as underneath my eye. And I wanted to see if I could combine the brown shade with some of these colorful shades because there aren't really any other colors to deepen up these colorful shades with, and I wanted to see how that would work out. So I'm going to grab the coffee shade here, which is the brown. And I'm starting by putting it down in the outer corner of my eye, and then once I have that down where I want it, I am slowly going to pull it through my crease all the way, just deepening it up. But I'm using very small circular motions to gently blend this into the green because I don't want the brown to go up too high, just high enough up that it goes above the hood of my eye and I can still see the green because I don't want these colors to get muddy together. I'm also just going back in with the green one more time to make sure that I really intensify that color, because I do want the green to really show when I'm done with the crease. So once I've done that, I'm going to take some of my glitter primer and put that all over my lid just as a preparation for the shimmer shadow that I'm putting on top. And the first one I'm going to use is the shade here that's called Copper Red. This is such a beautiful red shimmer. Like, I really was not expecting it to be as red as it is. I was kind of expecting it to be more of like a bronzy red, but it really is just a beautiful red shimmer and it is stunning. So that's going on the outer portion of my lid as well as the middle of my lid. And then you probably guessed it, but I'm going to use the green shimmer in the inner portion. This one is called Green Elves. I'm not really making this into a cut crease at all, but I am being fairly precise with this application because I do want to make sure that I don't pull the green so high up that the brown in my crease isn't showing anymore. I'm also going to wrap this around to my lower lash line and just put a little bit of that in the front portion there as well, just to brighten it up a little bit. And just as a last step, I'm going to go back in with the brown to make sure that the outer corners and my crease is looking nice and blended. And in my waterline, I'm using a dark brown eyeliner because I just felt like it would kind of go with the rest of the eyes. And I finished off with some lipstick that I thought would match the look, and that is going to be the end of look number 2. So are you proud of me? I actually match with my necklace. That was kind of the whole point when I put it on. I was like, that was my inspiration, and I'm proud of myself. I think this look turned out really, really nice. I love how the color played with the brown. And those shimmers are just so beautiful. So let's go ahead and move into look number 3. And for this look, I'm going to start off with a shade called Aquamarine. This is a beautiful light pastel-y blue. This look did end up being kind of crazy, but I also kind of liked it in the end. You'll see what I mean. So I'm basically just building this up in my crease now. Nothing fancy at all, just building this up on both eyes. And like I said, it's going to be a very, very simple look. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shade here called Forest Dream after I put on some glitter primer, which I've already done, picking it up on my brush and just slapping it all over my lid and blending it into my crease. So super easy and definitely something that anybody could do. And if you wanted to, you could absolutely just leave it like this, do some blue under your eye and just make it into a blue smoky eye. That would look really, really pretty too. But do you see how pretty this blue shimmer shadow is? It just makes me so happy because nothing makes me more happy than having a blue or a green shimmer on my lid. I swear, those are just like my 2 favorite colors and this one really hit the spot. So for my under eye, I'm going to go in with the shade here called Peach Juice. And I'm just smudging this under my eye. I'm a little bit unsure of how I feel about this color combination. I don't think it's bad, but I think that maybe I would have chosen a different color now looking back at this. But I do think that it came together in the end at least. So I'm just going to go back and forth in my crease and blend a little bit extra to make sure that everything is looking the way that I wanted it to be. I especially wanted to just bring that shimmer a little bit higher up here. And I'm deciding to bring in the highlighting palette for my inner corner because there wasn't really any light shades in the palette that I wanted to use. So I'm taking the shade here called Salamander. This is my favorite in this highlighting palette by far. It is such a beautiful iridescent shade with so many different colored sparkles in it, and it just makes me so happy. It just goes with basically every look and I just love it. Again, for my waterline, I'm deciding to go with white because I wanted to match my scrunchies, and I'm also going to use this white eyeliner to do a bit of a graphic line here, as you can see, just in the first half or so of my crease, but basically above my crease. It's very hard to explain when you're doing this because it's so dependent on your own eye shape, like how high you're going to put it. But once I put this down the way that I wanted it to be, I also wanted to do a couple of dots. So I'm taking a nail dotting tool using that same eyeliner and just putting 3 of those in the outer corner of my, like above my crease, if that makes sense. I mean, you see what I'm doing. It's still kind of hard to explain, but I just wanted to try something weird and it's kind of crazy, but I sort of like it. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But this is the look all done with eyeliner and mascara and lipstick, and this is the close-up. So like I said, kind of crazy, but I think I like it. Let me know what you think. So let's go ahead and move into look number 4. So this is the look that you saw me wearing in the intro with the very kind of neutrally bronzy eye. So I'm going to start off by taking the shade Apricot and put that in my crease. This is such a beautiful apricot-y shade. It really does live up to its name, and it just went on the eye so easily. It's such a pretty color. Once I place that in my crease, I'm going to move on to the lower lash line, and I'm going to use the shade called Orange Bonbon. I'm just going to smudge that underneath my eye because I wanted to test out this orange, and this is such a pigmented and bright orange. I found that with a lot of these mattes, like they honestly come off even brighter on the eyes than they do in the pan, which is kind of crazy because I don't think I have a lot of shadows that I can say the same thing about, but these are just so insanely pigmented. So back to the crease we go. I'm going to use the coffee shade to deepen this up with, and I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to start in the outer corner and just bring it through my crease kind of slowly, just building it up as I go and trying to get this to be as intense as I wanted it to be. And you can see this builds up so beautifully, and it doesn't really take long at all. You just have to go in a couple of times and you will get full pigmentation, and it's just such a rich chocolatey color, and it looks so good along with that yellow. Before I go in with my lid shade, I'm of course going to put down some glitter primer because I just find that it helps any shadow be as good as it can possibly be. So I'm taking the shade again here called Copper Red, which is the one I used along with the green in the other look, and I'm just putting this all over my lid as a bit of a smoky eye. I'm not really being precise at all with this application. I'm blending this into my crease a little bit as well, just to make sure that everything is nice and blended. I feel like I haven't really done any complicated looks yet, except for the one where I did like the graphic liner, but don't worry, that is definitely coming because I did want to try out some different techniques as well, but this look is definitely very simple. I'm also going to take some of my glitter primer underneath my eye because you guessed it, we're going to be using some glitter. Maybe you didn't guess it, but that's what we're doing. We're going to use the orange glitter here called Pop Rocks. And I'm just taking that on a brush, and I'm basically just pressing this on where I put down my glitter primer, and it just made it so nice and sparkly. As someone who doesn't really like glitter, I do think that these are really, really fun glitters. It's not something I'm going to be using a lot because glitters make me very uncomfortable, but I do think that they are beautiful. And again, for my inner corner, I'm going to go into my highlighting palette and grab the shade called Gnome, which is this kind of champagne-y shade. And this made for the most beautiful inner corner highlight. This was my first time trying it in the inner corner, and I think that this went beautifully with this look. It just really brightened everything up, and it went so well with everything else. And I just went off camera to finish off with my eyes. I also put on a lip product, and I really think that a red lip went very well with this. This is also from Odens, and it's in the shade Miss Canna. I'm also going to put on some blush. This is the shade Water Lily, and this is one of the more shimmery kind of blushes, and I think that this color went very, very well with this look. I love how this is kind of a neutral look, but with a twist because you have the pop of orange in the waterline as well as the glitter, and I think it looks so cool. So I'm going to take a little bit of the other highlighting palette from Odens. This is the Solmon highlighting palette, and I'm going to grab the bottom right shade, which is the yellow. This is one of my favorite highlighters from them. And that is going to be the completed look. So it's very different from what I normally do because it is definitely on the neutral side. But I think that with the little extra touches that I definitely made this into a me look. And I really like this. And you can really see like how the glitters are kind of sparkling under my eye. It looks so pretty. For this fifth look, I decided I wanted to do something kind of watermelon inspired, so I'm going to use the shade here called Peach Juice. I just love this as a matte. It's such a beautiful color. This is going to go in my crease, and this is also going to be a full cut crease, which I don't really do those very often, but I really, really wanted to pair this color with the green, and I also didn't want them to kind of blend together and get muddy at all, so I wanted to make sure I completely separated them. So I'm going to put this in my crease in a cut creasey shape so that when I do go ahead and cut my crease, it's going to be a lot easier. You can see I'm taking it kind of slow here to make sure I'm getting the shape right, because on my hooded eyes, it's very, very hard to do full cut creases because I find that I need to cut my crease so high, which means that I also need to put my crease shades up like higher, obviously, so that I don't cut away all of the shadow, if that makes sense. So when I'm happy with the shadow, I'm taking a brush and just cleaning up the lines on the outer edge where it is that I want the cut crease to go, and I'm then going in with some concealer on my lid and just kind of mapping out the rest of the cut crease here. So it's just going to be a little bit of practice, going back and forth a lot, keeping your eyes open, looking straight ahead, going back in to cut your crease where it is that you want it to be, and just making sure that when you're looking straight ahead that the cut crease is looking the way that you want on your own eye shape. It's definitely a lot of practice, but you'll get there in the end. And then for my lid, I'm first going to put down some glitter primer, of course, and I'm just patting the glitter primer basically all over where I cut my crease, also in the wing part on the outer portion. And then for the lid, I'm going to use the shade called Green Elves. Again, I'm missing the palette completely. I don't know how I even got any shadow on there, but somehow I did. So I'm just putting this all over my lid, like I said, and I'm going to gently wing this out. I'm deciding to spray my brush a little bit to get the application just a little bit more precise just on the wing part here, and I also switched to a smaller brush. And then for my under eye, I'm going back in with the crease shade because I wanted this to look the same on the top and the bottom, and I'm just smudging this out under my eye while still being very careful in the outer corner where I have the wing because I wanted the angle of everything to be kind of lined up, if that makes sense. And that's going to be it for this look. I did some mascara and eyeliner and lipstick off camera, and this is the completed look. And I really like this. I kind of wish that I did full cut creases more often because I do feel like they look okay as long as I take my time to get the cut right. And I think this looks really nice and summery. So let's go into the sixth look. And we're going to start off by taking the orange bonbon shade and use that as my transition shade. This is by far my favorite look in this video just because I'm going to do a very, very big wing. And I love doing my big wings because I just find that they suit my eye shape so well. So I'm putting this down in a very round shape all the way around my eye. I want this to be round in the outer corner so that when I do go in with my wing is going to extend past the eyeshadows. But before we do the wing, I'm going to deepen everything up a little bit with the shade Coffee. I love this shade. This is such a good brown and it just has so much depth to it, and I really appreciate that when the darkest shade in the palette does have a lot of depth because it just makes it so much more versatile. And I'm using this to basically deepen up my whole crease width all the way around my eye, just like I used the orange, but just a little bit more focused and lower down. And then to create my wing, I'm going to use a blue gel liner. You can absolutely use black if you don't have blue. And this is going to be my hooded eye wing technique that you've probably seen me do multiple times before, but I do have a tutorial on this. I will link that in the corner if you do want to check it out. But I basically draw the line of the wing above the hood of my eye, and then I connect it to the lid as if I would be doing a cut crease, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of following like that cut crease shape and connecting my wing to where my hood kind of meets my lid, just like so. And I'm also going to bring a little bit of this blue eyeliner onto my eyelid. And this is just going to help me transition the eyeshadows onto the eyeliner a little bit better and get the blend to look good. Before I go in with shadows, I'm going to put down some glitter primer, basically doing this in a bit of a cut creasy shape and creating a sharp line and meeting it up with where my wing begins. And I'm going to start in the front this time on my lid with the shade Blue Bubble. This is the very light blue shimmer. I think it's the first time I used this so far. And I'm putting that in the first quarter or so of my lid, just kind of, you know, having this be a starting point to where I'm going to blend in the other blues too. So I'm next going to take the shade called Sapphire, and I'm going to put this in the second quarter of my lid. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. I'm just blending it into the lighter blue, and then moving on, I'm going to go into the third quarter of my lid, and I'm going to use the shade called Forest Dream. I'm basically using all of the blue shimmers on my lid if you haven't figured that out already. And then for the wing part, I'm going to take the shade called Deep Sea with a very small pencil brush. I'm also going to spray that with some Fix Plus just to make sure that I am able to be as precise as I want it to be. I'm sorry, I'm out of focus. It's very hard to do this on camera. And that's going to be it for the eyes. Let's move on to the face. I'm grabbing my Solmona highlighting palette, and I'm going to grab the yellow shade again because I love this shade. And if you're wondering why I'm only doing my blush and highlighter and such in some of the looks, it's because I filmed 2 looks each time, and so I had my face makeup already done and I only took my eye makeup off some of the time. So now you know, not that you needed to, but now you know. And then again for my blush, I'm taking the shade here called Water Lily, and I'm going to use that to blush my face. And I actually think I'll be using this blush even more now when my hair is orange. Obviously, you don't see that when you're watching this, but I have dyed my hair and it's orange now, and I think this blush is going to look great. Not that it didn't here as well, but I think it's going to be perfect now. For lips, I'm taking one of the Odens cream lip stains. This one is in the shade Sweet Tulip, and that's going to be the end of the look. I really like this. I'm always feeling myself in these big wings. I don't know what it is. I just think that they look so good, and I love the combination between the cool and warm tones. I just love this look. Let's move into the last look, and we are going to be playing with the other glitter in this look, but before we do that, we need to put down some crease colors, which I always like to have mattes in my crease, and I'm using the shade here called Blue Peafowl. I'm going to put this in basically all of my crease. I'm also going to wing the shape out as well as take it underneath my eye in the outer portion. I'm leaving a little bit of room in both the inner portion of my crease as well as under my eye because I do want to use several colors here. As you can see, I'm going to take a bit of aquamarine, which I don't think I've used this shade yet, but this is going to go in the front portion of my crease. I just wanted to brighten this area up a little bit and just see if there was a difference between the tones in these. I'm also taking it under my eye a little bit as well. And these two colors just worked so well together. I really like how they looked. To deepen this look up a little bit, I'm first going to go into the shade here called Sapphire. I wanted to see if this was dark enough to be able to deepen it up with, but I realized after I put this down that I wanted a little bit more depth, so I'm going to go in with another shade over the top of this. So I'm taking a bit of the shade called Deep Sea, which is the dark blue shimmer in this palette, and I'm using this on a blending brush, a very small blending brush, and I'm putting this in the outer corner of my eye and using that to just deepen up the outer corners with, as well as blending it into my crease. And as someone who don't really like shimmers in their crease, I felt like this worked fairly well, even though for my hooded eyes, I just don't really think it is that flattering to have a shimmer going that high up, but it still does look really pretty on camera. And then for my lid shade, I'm going to use Crystal, and I'm going to spray that a little bit because I didn't want to put down any glitter primer since I am going to put down some glitter primer before I put down my glitter. So I didn't want to have too much product on my eyes already. So I did spray it just to, intensify it a little bit at least. Just putting this in the front portion as well as blending it into the dark blue that I have on the outer corner. Like I said, just going to go in with some glitter primer right where it is that I want the glitter to be, in the middle of my lid. And for the glitter, I'm going to use the Pink Star one. This one is so beautiful. I'm using a very small brush here to apply it with because this was the first look I filmed actually, so I wasn't really sure like how much I wanted to put on. So I'm going back and forth quite a few times, and I realized that the more I put on, the more I wanted to put on because it just looked so pretty, and yeah, I kind of liked it. Next up, I'm going to take the shade called Blue Bubble. This is going to be the inner portion of my lower lash line kind of shade, just to brighten everything up under there a little bit. And this look is just so ethereal and just so fairy-like, but still being blue. I don't know what it is, but I needed to put more blue in my waterline. So that's what I'm gonna do, because you can never have too much blue, and I just love blue everything. So that's gonna be the eye look all done, and this is what the completed look looks like. I really like this. I think it looks so cute. And here you can really see the sparkles and the glitters. They are so pretty. So that's going to be it for all of the looks. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this palette, and I'll give you my final review. Alright, so now that you have seen all of the 7, I know that's an extremely random number, but it's just kind of how it ended up being, because I started filming this and I was like, I'm just gonna film until I'm not out of ideas, but until I feel like I've done enough looks, and it just ended up being 7. So I hope you like them. Let me know what you think of the looks. Let me know which one was your favorite. I think we should just go ahead and get into the review part of this video. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this palette. As you saw when I was doing the looks, I was having a really good time. I especially love the mattes in this palette. I think that they are spectacular. I didn't have any issues working with any of them, and the thing that I really like about them that I think a lot of people are going to like is just how buildable they are, and they're not like super intense upon first application. Now, I like shadows like that personally, but I also like shadows that can be built up, and these can be really built up to be super intense, or you can also go in with a wash of color if that is what you like. So I feel like this palette is going to be great for someone who's maybe not like that experienced working with colorful eyeshadows, because a lot of these are also kind of on the lighter side. So if you want to do like very light and ethereal and not so like in your face looks, you can do that, but you can also really amp this up and make it be like really intense. My one complaint I think with this palette is that I wish that there was one more dark matte that wasn't a brown, because personally especially with all of these colorful shades, I sometimes have a little bit of a hard time wanting to deepen up like a color with a brown, because I just find that it turns muddy sometimes. You saw it in the look where I used the green in my crease and I used the brown to deepen it up with. Like, it works, but it really tones down the color, and it kind of takes away the fact that it is a very bright and colorful shade, if that makes sense. I feel like this palette would just kind of benefit from having a bit of a darker matte, and this is like a nitpicky thing, that's just like my opinion, but I prefer the darkest shade in my palette to be a matte. So I don't know, this kind of dark blue shimmer, as much as it is a beautiful shade, like I love the shade, but I just wish that there was a dark blue matte to kind of go with some of these other blues and also the greens, because I just feel like having a dark blue would have really made this palette a little bit easier to work with, and it just would have like made it possible to do more looks, if that makes sense. But I do think the formula on all of the shadows in here are great. It's just my personal preference when it comes to color stories is that I just wish that there was some more dark mattes in here to kind of replace some of these shimmers, because in here we have 4 blue shimmers, which is kind of a lot for a palette, and when you layer them next to each other like I did in the look where I did my big wing, I kind of felt like they kind of merged into one, if you know what I mean. So I don't feel like we really needed all of these blues. As good as they are, I do wish that there was just one more blue matte in here, and it also would have made this palette a lot more inclusive so that people of a darker skin tone would be able to get more use out of this, because I feel like they really rely on having dark mattes more than people like myself do, even though I really do love me some dark mattes. But I feel like it's just kind of necessary to have a couple of dark mattes in every palette. But I really love this palette. As for the glitters, I think that the formula is really nice. I can't really compare it to like other glitters because I personally just don't really use glitters. It's something that makes me a little bit uncomfortable because they aren't eye safe, and I've gotten glitters in my eyes multiple times and it's kind of painful. And I also I don't know. I know a lot of people love them, but personally, I would just rather there not be any pressed glitters, as beautiful as they are. And I also I've talked to so many people and I've seen so many comments of people being like, I would have bought this if there wasn't a pressed glitter, but I have never heard anyone ever say that I would buy this palette if it had a pressed glitter. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like as a brand, they would just sell more if they didn't have pressed glitters in their palettes, but that's just my opinion. And like I said, if you guys love glitters, I think that is amazing. And I think that you would probably love these glitters because they are really pretty. Now, I don't know if you guys have been watching my Instagram at all lately, but if you are someone who don't like to use glitters on your eyes, I've actually been using the glitters on my nails and it works really well. It's super easy to do. All I did was swirl my finger into the glitter and tap it on top of a similar colored nail polish, and then I sealed it with 2 layers of a top coat, and it lasted for like 4 days and it was really tough to get off. So if you've been kind of thinking about getting this palette but you don't like glitters, but you like having glitters on your nails maybe, I don't know, just something to keep in mind. I don't know, I thought it was kind of fun and I will definitely do it again because that is how I'm going to be using those glitters, because I just don't think that I will put them on my eyes again. I only really did it because I wanted to show you guys how they would look on the eyes, and like I said, they are beautiful, but it does just make me a little bit uncomfortable. As for the shimmers in this palette, I really think that they complement the mattes very nicely. They're kind of like a softer shimmer, not in that they're not intense, but they're kind of thin in formula, if that makes sense. So you can decide if you want to have more of a sheer layer, or you can really like build it up and use a glitter primer or spray a brush or something like that to make them more intense. But I feel like they really go with the vibe of this palette, and that is one thing that I can appreciate with this. Like, I see where they were going with the whole theme of this, and that is also one thing that I really like about Odens is that their theming, like their whole brand is kind of built around this Norse mythology, and also the packaging is just, there's so much thought and like detail that has gone into like making all of these products, and I just think that they are so beautiful and I love having them in my collection. Even just to look at them, like, they just make me so happy. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much to Odens for sponsoring this video. I hope you guys liked the looks. I hope you're excited for my next video because I cannot wait to dig into these little babies because they look absolutely beautiful. If you want to see some other multiple looks videos that I have on my channel, here's my playlist, and if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I'll see you in my next one.